Now today we will actually talk about the identity column. You see previously in our previous examples, we put up identity. Um, so basically an identity column is used to generate unique and auto-incremented numbers for each row in a table. So this is a feature that is particularly useful for creating primary keys where each row needs a unique identifier. So that's just automatically assigned upon insertion. Um, and it takes two arguments basically, which is we have the seed, which is a starting value, and the increment. So that is a value that is added to the seed to determine the next value in sequence. So it's more of a sequential thing, or sequential number rather. Now let's create a new table and then we can actually see how it works. Now make sure that you switch to the database, my demo DB. It's the one that I've been using, just to make sure that we create a table there. So we're gonna create a new table called orders. And then we will have the order ID. And then we have it's an integer, and then we specify the identity. Now identity, we're gonna have a seed value. So one will be seed one. I mean, it's gonna be the seed value. So that means that the first record is gonna start on one, okay, and then it's gonna increment by one. So meaning the second record will be 2, 3, 4, and so on. So it's sequential. And then also it's a primary key. So we can specify that it's a primary key. And then perhaps we can have a customer other data, like customer name, and which is varying characters, variable characters. Let's make it 255, and we can say not null. And then we can have the order date as well. Order date, order, just start it nicely, the order date. And then this is gonna be the date type. And then also it's not null, because we actually need that. And then the last is gonna be total amount that the customer needs to pay, customer amount. And this is decimal. And we can add the precision there. All right. So in this example table of ours, the order ID is the identity column starting at 1, and then which is seed is equals to 1, and then it will increment by 1 for each row that is inserted into the table. And then we've got the customer name, that is a variable character string column that stores the name of the customer placing the order. And then the order date is the date column that records the date when the when the order was actually placed. And then the total amount is a decimal column that stores the total amount of the order. Now when it comes to inserting data, we can insert into orders, and then we insert customer name. So we do not include the order ID because it's gonna auto put. All right. Then we insert the order date, and then we insert the total amount, amount. And then the values will be a, let's say, John Doe, and then maybe the order date is, remember the date we said is year, month, and day. So it's 2024, and then 02, and then 14 on the odd date. I just want to fix the spelling there. You see, it's just giving me error because an error, because maybe my spelling is not right. And the total amount, we can say maybe it's okay. So because it's a numerical, it's a decimal, we can say maybe 699.79. So this actually don't need and then maybe let's insert another order so that we can see that this is actually sequential. So we can say this is Jane Smith, and then the values, let's say 2024. Let's say this one ordered 2 days before, and then maybe the order was 1099. See, let me actually do this. So I'm gonna just add a new query and then select all from orders. Now you'll see that on the order ID is actually sequential, meaning the next record that I put on is going to be 3, the next one is 4, and so on and so on. Okay, so that's the identity column. Now after we execute, the orders will have 2 rows. Of course, they have 2 rows on the order ID of 1 and 2 respectively. So what happens is that SQL Server automatically assigns the identity value starting with the seed value of 1, incrementing by 1 for each row, as we've defined on the table structure. Now, what are the benefits of the identity column? It provides convenient way to ensure each row in the table has a unique identifier without the need for manual management. It's especially useful for primary keys, just simplifying data insertion process in applications. The seed value, just to explain a little bit more, the seed is the initial value that is assigned to the first row, which is inserted into the table, and then the increment is the value that systematically is added to the identity value of the preceding row to determine the next row's identity value. So by default, both seed and increment are set to 1. So even if we do not specify, so I just needed to specify it so that you can see what's going on, that you can understand. Meaning that the first inserted row received an identity value of 1, and then the next one gets 2, and so on. So incrementing by 1 for each subsequent row. So it's important just to note that SQL Server just maintains the uniqueness of identity values. It does not recycle them. So once you used it, and then let's say we delete Jane that has the identity value of 2, we can't reuse 2 again. So if we delete Jane and then we insert another row, it's going to start at 3 and then going forth. So going on with 4, 5, 6, and so on. So the identity value are not, they cannot be recycled, right? So it does not recycle. So this is why if you insert, maybe there was anything wrong while you were inserting, maybe you insert operation into a identity column fails for some reason, or it's reversed, then the value that you anticipate for that row is skipped and is never used reused in a subsequent insertion again.